This is the post graph after the second listing was chosen at week 6. Okay, the listing was changed to axis. Post-adjustment scan noted a resolution of abnormal physiology. Here's our post graph. Week 6, down to 3 seizures a day. The child could say the word eat. He could handle holding toys, and he was saying hello on the telephone. At week 7 to 12, seizures reduced to staring episodes. At week 12, no more seizures experienced. He was potty trained, and he could walk if someone held his hand. 5 years later, when we last checked in 1999, the child had moved from California to Georgia, and his mother reports that he was going to school and doing very well. There is no way that this child could have his listing established in this short a time and this well corrected without thermography. It couldn't have happened. He couldn't speak. His muscle spasms were continuous. There was no way to do leg checks. There was no way to assess neurologically what was happening real time in this child without thermography. These are not isolated cases. The second case on our website that was published is a 5-year-old girl, very diagnosed with autism to the point of having a court order to keep her away from other children. Please go to our website and enjoy the results of what chiropractic did with that child. These are not isolated cases. In offices using thermography as the main indicator of is the listing correct, when to adjust, and more importantly, when not to adjust, it's all about percentages. Chiropractic works, but when you're using instrumentation that is repeatable and reliable and accurate, and you trust that instrumentation, and you follow whatever your techniques are, you follow that instrumentation's reports as whether your listings are correct or not, or what needs to be changed to clear these graphs. BJ didn't have the research to explain why these dermatones were changing temperature. He thought he was reading nerve heat. But his clinical observations, his clinical expected outcome of a clear graph, of a straight line, was right on the money. Every physiologist, every anatomist, every person in the biomedical world today, including the engineers, understand this, and it's a shame more chiropractors don't. So I hope I'm not preaching to the choir, but as a patient and an engineer, this is the kind of care I would like to have for my family, for my father, for my children, and for myself. I was given asthma by allowing myself to be manipulated at trade shows in the early years when we started doing this work. I was using an inhaler 3 times a night, 6 months every winter for 3 years, almost ready to be put onto heavier drugs, when a single upper cervical atlas adjustment turned that off like a light switch. That's what relit the fire in our company to continue on and improve and build the best scanner that we can build. Our software, I think by now you understand that the important graphs that you as a doctor are going to follow are the line graphs. You're going to be looking for pattern. You're going to be looking for resolution of that pattern to as balanced a line as you can get. Initially, when you start working with a patient and you bring up this work to them, you do have the ability in our software to present reports. The bar graph overlaid on a patient's back or a picture of a back is a very good way initially for a patient to understand what it is you're measuring. This bar graph in particular represents the difference from left to right. The middle line graph, as you would have seen from an NCM, for instance, the colors correspond to the 0.3, the 0.5, and over 0.8 degrees that we talked about. These red lines, if static, if at the same location every time the patient presents, are still there, that represents, again, through medical research, a 96% correlation with some pathology in the body. The blue bar graph shows actual temperatures, so we can see at this area an area of perhaps chronic cold. We can bring up the patient's bar graph alongside an anatomical chart, allowing you, the doctor, a chance to talk with the patient about possible relationships at these various vertebral levels with internal organs in the body that might be experiencing trauma. I'd like to point out at this time that a distressed organ, let's say an appendix, someone going through an appendicitis attack will demonstrate and show on their dermatomes a very hot area weeks or at least a week before they realize that they are headed to the hospital. We've seen that several times with the scanner. A full report can be printed, your letterhead at the top, explaining what computerized paraspinal thermal imaging is about. This is the first report that can be given to a patient to take home after an initial visit. A complete report on that patient can be generated showing their graph, either a line graph or a bar graph, where the comments are unique to that patient, and we point out every location and actual temperature deviation that caused us to consider either a mild or severe temperature difference. At the bottom of that report, you'll find the medical journals to where one can go for the research supporting these temperature differences and the concern with pathology. I guess at this point, I would like to just briefly introduce you to some of the people that work with us at Titronics. This is Ty Graper, who is our machinist. And this is a digitally controlled, computer-controlled milling machine where we manufacture the handles and the heads out of aluminum for the scanner. This is Todd Graper, who at this point is potting the preamplifiers into our scanner heads. Dave Goody is our electrical tech. At this point, he is checking and adding some parts to the computer boards that are within the scanner. And this is the calibration bench where we go through and check and calibrate every scanner when it is finished. Just a real brief history on who we are. I founded Titronics after leaving Cornell University as a mechanical engineer in 1972. We have with us now on our engineering staff 4 engineers, 2 part-time, 2 full-time, 3 technicians, 3 software people, 1 full-time, Chris Harmon. Many of you may have talked to him already on the phone, and also 2 consultants, Joe DiMaria and Brian Klosterman. In our office, my good wife, Marvel Titone, handles telephone and correspondence, invoicing, customer support, and keeps us all on track. Titronics started out originally designing and building electromechanical equipment for some of the companies in the Iowa City area. We eventually worked on a project for a roofing company in Cedar Rapids that involved an infrared temperature sensor to control the speed of a hot air roof welding machine. After several years of perfecting that technology, I had remembered back in graduate school when the physical therapy students were coming into our lab and using thermistors on the back. I started following that path and was led to chiropractic. When I discovered, especially after our first prototype, scanning myself and others, that this pattern was so repeatable, that really caught my attention. And I never, ever in my life had seen anything, because I was looking at going into biomedical engineering. I'd worked in the hospital for 2 years, developing the biomechanical lab at for the orthopedics department at the University of Iowa. We measured EMG, we measured gait, we measured a lot of things. I never saw anything recordable on the human body as repeatable as a person's pattern of interference when they're subluxated. At that point, I changed the direction of our company into pursuing the development and the building of the kind of an instrument that you as a chiropractor need in order to do this kind of very precision objective chiropractic work.